It says it's excellent, but is it excellent? Is the stream live? The stream is live. Excellent. Hello everyone, I'm the Smoking Cheddar, but you probably already knew that. This week, hopefully, there'll be less coughing, there'll be less burping, there'll be less sneezing, because I'm feeling slightly better. And we're going to do one of our officer spotlights live this week, because I don't have time for editing anymore. We're going to be doing Ripcurrent, the new naval officer. As always, we'll do the skills left to right. Tactical skill first, grade them 1 to 5, give an overall score at the end. We'll give a summary of the officer and then possible pairing and usage for the officer. And then after that, we can maybe discuss a few things extra. If anyone has any questions, that will be the great time to then use them. Sorry, I need something for my glasses. I have a smudge on my glasses. It's annoying me. I'll give you guys a minute or two just to populate the stream at any rate. I hate that about glasses. Sometimes you just get a sticky fingerprint on them that just doesn't go away. Anyway, it's cold this evening. I couldn't be bothered to find anything more suitable to stream in because it's December and, well, it's December. I don't really care all that much. Let's crack on. We've got a versatile field and skills officer. So, let's dive right in. Tide Piercer, this is tactical skill. We get an 1800 damage coefficient and it reduces the target's damage resist by 20%. This is going to be really handy in any defensive or field situation. So this is really good versus units. 20% damage resist drop seems to be the standard these days. I don't want to dunk on this guy too much, but we're now sitting at that 1800 standard with a standard damage resistance. I don't want to give it a standard score of 3 because, well, we do have two things here and one of them is quite nice. It's a reluctant 4 because this doesn't really do anything now what I would consider outside of normal. We can use Tide Watcher here as an example, 1800 with bonus. 1800 with a bonus. Over 1800. 1800 with a bonus. So this is now the bog standard. In fact, no, this is now such a standard thing that it is a 3. But I would like to clarify that this is not going to reflect on this officer's ability later on. He is a good officer, but we'll get to that. This is going to be a 3 because this is nothing special. This is now just a standard tactical skill. We have a damage intensity of the officer's troop by up to 25% when attacking an enemy with an active shield. The damage intensity is increased by a further 10%. So we're getting a 35% damage intensity buff. This is a 4. It's not quite a 5. If we manage to get it higher than 35%, like 40, 45 and up, I'd say that's a 4. I mean, this is very much an anti-shield skill. This is going to really help you knock down enemies with a shield. So we are straight up giving this a 4. This is nice. It's above average. I like it. We have a normal attack resilience. This is leaning towards the field skill, but here's the thing. It's a normal attack resilience of 50%, which is huge. Now, at some stage, officer skill training is going to come in. This is going to be, even if you don't want to use this officer, you're going to want to get this skill up to 5. Normal attack resilience buff of 50% is easily a 5 all day long, ladies. It is by no means a terrible skill. We've got a balanced skill here, increases the firepower of this officer's troop by 40% and the HP of up to 10%. So we're getting a total of a 50% total in bonuses. Now, I don't think there's anyone else we can actually compare that to. He got 40% in bonuses. What about on the ground? 30% in bonuses. 30% in bonuses. 50% in bonuses. So 50% is pretty high, and it is firepower with a little bit of HP. So this is leaning on to us being able to pump out skill shots and us being able just to hit a little bit harder like an absolute truck. Um, because it is a 40% firepower and only a 10 HP, I think I am going to give this a 5 because this is leaning really heavily in a single direction while giving you a bonus. On to the awakened skill. Now this increases the tactical skill. Obviously, our standard tactical skill is 20% damage resist for 8 seconds, which is really good with an 1800 skill. But like I said, that's just bog standard at this stage. It's part of the course. But once he is awakened, we are getting it upgraded. It is going up to 2200, which is very nice. Reduces the target troop by 20% for 8 seconds, so that hasn't changed. If the target troop has an active shield, deals skill damage again of a damage coefficient of 550. I can count. We've been through this multiple times in my videos. I can count. So that's giving us a total of 2,750 just from him in a skill shot output. That is no way not going to be a 5 because his thing is dealing damage to an enemy that has a shield, but specifically out in the field. So we are looking at a very, very good unit here. That's going to be a 5. And that's going to give us an average score of 4.4. The only thing that really let it down of anything is just the fact that this was so bog standard, but once it was awakened, it really pumped it up. I mean, I can see why the tactical skill is standard from start all the way to finish when it becomes absolutely amazing. He's got some interesting mechanics. He's very specifically targeting enemies with shields for increased intensity, increased damage output. We're getting higher amounts of firepower. So the question really becomes is who are we going to pair him with? Now, spoiler alert, you can see my screen, and I already have him with the officer I would have him paired with. However, I don't have him paired in the order I would have him paired on, and furthermore, I don't have him on the unit I would have him on. So I think I would have him either on an aircraft carrier or I would have him on a submarine. Now, I do have him on a destroyer. I am a destroyer man, so it just makes sense to have have him on a destroyer for me because I am doing base to basing. This makes sense. I would have him as the captain. I think in both circumstances, because we're dealing skill damage to a shielded target. Now, why would I have him on an aircraft carrier? Defensively, high skill damage, very, very nice. Those of you running aircraft carriers at the moment know exactly what I'm talking about. The amount of damage output you can do with a skill shot while it is inside your base and you are offline is very, very high. It's very nice. It's a great deterrent. Out in the field, do excuse me, that is my coffee repeating on me. Out in the field, it does mean that that extra range you're getting, you're going to be able to apply against armored destroyers. Now, most people are running destroyers, so those anti-air destroyers are going to be a pain in the backside for you, which is why you're going to need an air force to back up your aircraft carrier. That being said, I would have him on a sub over an aircraft carrier. And that is because of how the sub works. Now, I have a 7.0 sub in my lineup at the moment for Silver 2. I don't use it as much as I'd like because, well, I can't get it up to modern at the moment, and furthermore, I don't have the components spare that I could waste on it, all the prototype pieces. But I haven't seen anyone really run subs effectively. The only people I've come up against who are running subs are running them sort of like you would run a destroyer. You run it out of the base and attack the target. That's the wrong way to use a submarine. You specifically want to take the submarine, use its stealth as its advantage, move it around the back of the enemy fleet, and start picking off units from the rear. That's what you're supposed to do with it. And this guy is going to give you a defensive option while it's inside the base by eliminating or dealing more damage, I should say, towards the armored destroyer that is going to be fronting your base. On top of that, should anyone have a shield on a missile destroyer, you're going to be able to pick that off with a little bit more ease because he's going to be able to deal a lot more damage there. He is a very, very good officer damage wise. The versatility is just brilliant. I do like the fact that we've got quite a lot of versatile officers in the Navy at the minute and they're slowly building it up. And yeah, unfortunately, the skill training slots are unavailable, which is the only reason why I've not been covering the unit builds, because at the moment, we've got no skill training, so I'm going to be missing out like half of the information. That being said, if you are a submarine player and you are looking to absolutely devastate your opponent, why would we pair him with Tide Watcher? Yes, I do love talking. That's why I have a YouTube channel. How rude. Um, Whenever this officer's troop kills an enemy unit, it has a 30% chance to shorten the prep time of its skill shot by 1 second. This cannot be triggered any more than once every 8 seconds. That's good, but also the main reason is this: if the target has over 50% HP remaining, the strike deals extra damage. Now, if you pair that with the fact that you can now deal additional damage to a shield, you're going to be able to chunk off large quantities of a unit's health over 50%. So as long as they're above 50%, and especially if it's an armored destroyer, this is key. If it's an armored destroyer, because armored destroyers are quite often running the captain surf combo. Now they're going to get their health back during that combat cycle of 10 seconds. They're going to get a little bit of health back. Now, if they go over the 50% and then you trigger both of your skill shots, you're going to get bonus damage and you're going to chunk off way more than otherwise you would have done. It's quite important that you look at how we can use these units, which is why I've always been doing my unit videos with such in-depth looks at how to use the unit. And again, yes, I'm sorry, you're not going to get a full unit review video until we've got skill training for the Navy. But I will keep plugging out the Navy officers. Now, I think the Navy being only like the Navy is now half the game. You can't escape it. If you're not investing in your Navy at this stage, for whatever reason, you are going to get left behind. I would like to show you what I mean by that. There's 4 hours left on our conquest. I'm currently 46 million points in the lead in Silver 2. Most of that was done through my Navy. Nearly all of it was done through my Navy. The amount of points you get a bonus of 33% out on the ocean. You cannot ignore the Navy if you're hunting for your FM rank or for anything, because it is so valuable. And the sub is going to be a key unit going forwards. I am going to work on one and have one in the sideboard, and I'm just going to bring it in whenever I need it. But yeah, guys, I think it's at the stage where I don't think three destroyers is what you should be going for. I think it should be maybe two destroyers and either the anti-sub frigate, which has qualities all of its own, um, which a lot of people seem to don't like because they think, oh, it's a bit squishy. It dies too quickly. Again, you're using the unit wrong. If your unit, if you're using your unit to take hits and it is a sub, it is a aircraft carrier, or it is a frigate, you're using the unit wrong. That's what your destroyers are for. Your destroyers are your frontline units. These are your support units. They're designed to either stay at extreme range or to flank the targets that are engaged. They're designed to be micromanaged. Donate your destroyers to a fleet, micromanage your side piece units. And subs are going to be absolutely devastating, especially with Ripcurrent and Tide Watcher. You're going to have two skills that are going to run off the back of each other, and you're going to be able to absolutely rinse them. Now, I've got 26 statues currently. In a few hours' time, the wheel opens and Tide Watcher will be awakened. And I am immediately moving on to Ripcurrent because you, like I said, it just can't be ignored. The next thing that can't be ignored that I see as being ignored by most people is actually your Air Force. And that is because now your Air Force is a supporting cast unit across both land and sea, and you can also use it to strategically attack your opponent's bases should you have the capability to do so. It's just, you can't leave these two sections out of your lineup anymore. Now, if you are struggling with getting your navy off the ground because you don't have the prototype pieces, I'm going to tell you a horrible and hard truth. You are in the wrong restricted group should you be playing restricted. You ain't going to like this, you're going to need to come out of gold and go down to silver. I said it. You probably hate me for saying it because, oh, you're wrong, I can just switch on the fly. Good for you. It's not convenient to do that when there is a battle being active and taking place. That's very inconvenient for both you, for your alliance, and for your allies, and potentially, if you're in silver, your coalition partner. You need to drop down to a level where you are building up your forces and building up your prototype pieces so you can go forwards back into gold. It's a hard truth. That's why do you think I've spent the last, since they released Navy, in silver? It's so I could do exactly this, and it's now paying dividends. Hello, Sandvoss. Sorry, I'm not ignoring you. I am just on a massive rant. I do have a thing for the sub. It has, on a number of occasions, this conquest come in extremely clutch for me. I have used it to capture points when enemies weren't looking, because they don't look for the sub when you sit it underneath the water in the middle of a checkpoint. Now, the other piece of information we have is the gear. Now, at the moment, I have for my navy just the HP and skill boost and the damage resist and firepower. You can look at these in one of two ways. You can either double stack or single stack. Yeah, I think that's so. What do I mean by double stack? So you're going to use both of these stats. So we don't have a lot of gear at the moment. Or you're going to specifically target one of these stats. Now, you can't level up one individual from the other, but if I'm putting them both on my armored destroyer, I'm looking at this HP and I'm looking at this damage resist. If I'm putting them both on my missile destroyer, which I have, I'm looking at the firepower and I'm looking at the officer skill boost. So you're either going to put them on a unit that is going to benefit specifically from them both, or you're going to try and leverage a specific type of damage or resistance or longevity of the unit. That's kind of where you should be going with these with these gear pieces at the minute. Try not to worry too much about them. I see a lot of people saying, I don't know what to do with them. Look at individual skills on here and see how many of them that officer can use. The more of these skills that officer can use, it's more than likely that's the right officer to put it on. And you'll know that because I say it in all of my unit build videos. We're looking for damage resistance, we're looking for HP, we're looking for damage intensity. Why are we looking for them? Well, it's a soak unit, it's a field unit, it's going to be a sniper unit, it's going to be an attacking unit, it's going to be a frontline unit, it's going to be a support unit, it's going to do something specific. You want to look for that something specific that it's going to do, and then you want to make sure it has the relevant stats. So we're looking at the exceptionally high stat of damage resistance and HP for soaking damage. We're looking at firepower and maybe HP if we're looking at a field fighting unit. We're looking at damage intensity if we're looking at some unit that's going to use its auto attack to snipe, like the light tank or the helicopter, for example, when we do pop out attacks, or if we're doing that with an armored destroyer, for example, where we pop out and then snipe a unit and move back in. The same with the sub. You're going to use it as a snipe unit. It's going to move out, fire a shot, come back. The aircraft carrier, we're going to be looking at the skill build up time of the enemy and try and stack our skill build up time to roughly the same, and we want all the skills to pop off, move the aircraft carrier out of the base, target a specific unit and build up that skill shot, fire the skill shot off and move it back into the base because it will get targeted by adjacent units. Obviously, if there's too many units around, you can't do that. But in most of the circumstances I've seen out in the ocean at the minute with the navies, it's very small clusters of very strong units. So that is Ripcurrent. And I think anyone who is using a sub, you probably, or actually, I'll tell you what else he'd be good on: an armored destroyer damage build. Now, it's not, I don't cover armored destroyer damage builds that much. And the reason for that is because most people are going to want the armored destroyer for its damage resistance ability. But the armored destroyer has one thing that only it shares with a sub, and that's its penetration damage rating. You can do a hell of a lot of damage with damage penetration, and if you were to stack, um, okay, we don't have a damage intensity item available yet, but if we did have a damage intensity item, that would be absolutely brilliant for him. Like when that becomes available, when gear becomes available, you're looking for damage intensity for this guy all day long, because we're going to be looking at basically using him as a sniper unit. It's going to pop out, flank, attack, move back in if it's in a sub. If it's in an armored destroyer, pop out, shoot, 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 pop back in, regenerate its health, and then go again. And that's what we're looking to do. So I hope this has been useful for some of you guys. I actually don't know how many people are watching this evening because I have a 3 concurrent viewers this evening. It's a lower than usual one. We've had 10 views so far. So thank you. Those of you who watch my VODs after the live stream, MVPs, all of you, well done. And yeah, the devs have been hassling me to go on a video editing course. I have declined, and I've had somewhat of a busy month, shall we say. So yeah, that's not happening anytime soon. Now, I've been playing a lot of Crusader Kings 3, so my brain is utterly scatterbrained. Does anyone, and I know there's going to be at least one question regarding gear, have any questions that isn't gear related before we move on to gear, because I just know I'm going to have to do either a separate live stream on the gear, or I'm going to have to tackle gear a bit more in this live stream. So I'm going to drink this quickly.
Mic off. Mic on.
You're not saying anything, chat, so I would assume that you have no additional questions regarding things that aren't related to gear. So my next question is, do you have any additional questions that is related to gear? And if so, would you prefer that I done it on a separate live stream later this week, specifically tackling the issues of gear? Obviously, if you are watching this after the fact, you're more than welcome to leave your input in the comment section. I do read all of the comments, and I think there's only one comment I haven't responded to, which was from about 3 months ago. And the only reason why I didn't respond to that comment was because I actually answered that question very specifically in the video. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse there. But that individual has my personal apologies, because you're the only person I've not responded to on a Warpath video. I am very sorry. I will make it up to you at some stage. You know who you are. Also, I'd like to see what rifle he's got on his back. I can't. I should imagine it's some sort of sniper rifle, knowing this game. Actually, do you know what it is? I bet it's a FAMAS. I bet he's got a FAMAS on his back, or some really messed up version of a FAMAS. If he isn't, because I mean he's French. If it isn't, and I'd be very I'd be very concerned. All right, one last treat before we leave then. There she is. It's currently level 2. It doesn't do any damage at the moment, none whatsoever. This literally, I train it up, I send it out, and it captures these when they're not looking. In fact, it captured this one. It captured this one. I just deployed my base over here, trained it up, sent it down, and just parked it sort of like around here, I think. So it was inside the zone, and then I just left it and then went back on the ground. Next thing I know, I've got myself a brand new shiny effluent station, which was pretty cool. So don't underestimate subs, guys. Subs are amazing, and I think this guy is going to be a good sub commander, especially paired, as I said, along Tide Watcher. So I can see that shows your current land setup. Look at my current land setup. It's currently set for field fighting. Hang on. So we've got my infantry up here. This combo is working pretty viciously. It's not great, but it'll do. Squads, just reset the squads. I can build them up later. So this is not for base defense or PvP or anything. Sorry, base to base. We have that artillery unit, this artillery unit, and the big boy gun. This basically never changes, this anti-tank gun. I don't ever change the setup for it because it is abhorrently dangerous. This anti-tank gun setup is one of the most vicious ATG setups I've ever done. um, absolutely ruined SHs to the point where, and I'm not joking, I have had my base attacked on ground twice this entire conquest, and they refuse to come at me anymore. That is, I mean, I know it's silver, but I would just like to point out. Oh no, I have to go to the actual research building, don't I? I'd like to point out that my advanced city defense is only at 12. So when that ATG pops off, that's not advanced city defense absolutely ruining people. Ah, yes. So I have approached this specific question in the past. I think it was in the big video of the big video of everything 2.0, of which I've been already asked several times to do a third one. Now, there's a reason why he's on the Messier gun. 6.62 on the Liberty, 6.65 on the Vanguard. Now, the only reason why that Liberty is even close at the moment is due to the Dominion tech. I have a point, bear with me, because it'll make sense. So my Dominion tech at the moment, I've got 6 out of 8 firepower for Camp Liberty. So at the moment, my Camp Liberty is catching up. However, I've got no additional firepower for my Martyr, and it's still in the lead. Okay, now, once they're both at the same level, I guarantee you, because it was prior to me getting there, that prior to me getting 6 out of 8 on Liberty, that is, that the Martyr gun is going to have more firepower. Now, the reason why I have Vent and I on that gun is to utilize that firepower. We're not utilizing the unit damage, we're utilizing the firepower because we want the skill damage to hit as hard as humanly possible. We're not relying on unit damage bonus to deal damage to the base. Allow me to show you. This one? No, that's Navy. Here we go. Perfect example. Okay, so you'll see here the Martyr gun. We're hitting at 212 million versus the Liberty gun hitting at 171. Now, I know what you're going to say, but my gun deals more damage. Yes, but when you've got two guns that deal exceptionally high damage in skill output, and the base only lasts for a handful of seconds, they're both, one's going to be slightly higher and the other one's going to be slightly lower. But trust me, if I just used just the one gun, the output on this thing is insane, because we're looking at this 168 on the skill damage as its total versus 116. Okay, you got, like, we're getting, the only reason why we're getting a little bit more here is because we're getting that unit bonus, unit damage bonus. But I don't like using the unit damage bonus. I personally prefer like to use the skill damage. That's not to say that using the unit damage is the wrong way to do it. The way I've set mine up is so I will pop a skill shot off that will absolutely terrify the opponent. So the output for each gun does differ, but it's not drastic. I wouldn't say it's drastically different. I sat down one evening with another friend of mine and we got the pen and paper out and we worked out there is approximately a 5% difference either way in both field and versus a base in favor of the Martyr gun. There's a reason for that, and that is before an update, a very specific update, um, the Martyr gun used to have a longer load time for its unit shot. They done away with that and brought it in line with the Liberty gun, but they never reduced the Martyr's firepower to keep it in line with the fact that it's now dealing more damage. Now, the Martyr gun deals more unit damage versus unit, so it makes it an excellent counter artillery piece or an excellent anti unit piece because it gets bonus unit damage versus units. Whereas the Liberty gun gets most of its bonus unit damage versus a base. But because there's so much extra firepower available to you in the Martyr gun, you're going to deal about 5% more in skill shot. Well, in total, in an overall total. So if I was to completely carbon copy my unit from Ventura and I over onto a Liberty gun with exactly the same quality pieces, we're looking like that gun in either versus units or versus a base is going to be about 5% less, which is why he's on the Martyr gun. Now, I'm no mathematician. I do have to work with maths for my job every single day. I do make mistakes. I could be wrong, but I done it with a friend who is a programmer. He's pretty good with maths, better than I am. And I would say between us, we're pretty confident. I'd say probably about 95% confident that the Martyr gun is just going to outpace the Liberty gun just by enough to make a difference. So it does mean, like in a defensive situation, having say Argent Flame and Stinger Fist, it's going to deal more damage on the on the Martyr gun opposed to the Liberty gun. But I'm too lazy to set up a whole switch for it. I mean, at the sort of damage you're going to be able to pump out, you're going to be one-shotting targets with the skill shot anyway at that stage, whether you're in Liberty or you're in Martyr. So you're just going to basically be arguing over the 5% unit damage versus units. Use Flame and Stinger on the Marty, and Vent Eye on the Liberty. Do focus Flame and Stinger on defense. Yeah, I do the same. I do the same. I use the heat's 40%. Yeah, I'm working on that as well. I actually have that.
Heard the stories, have you?
She's currently at 32. That's maybe 3 months away, and that'll be at 40%. And also, I'm trying to get this one as well because that's not bound, and that's an additional 30%. So those two skills are coming into play soon. But I did just spend like a whole year getting Darkwing, so you know I'm not exactly my trained skills are not exactly up to scratch. However, I think that is the way you should be using the executive lounges, by picking a skill and leveling it up. I don't think it's worth unlocking this any officer anymore to its full potential, because within 6 months it's going to be irrelevant. It's going to take you 12 months to get the officer awakened at best if you're a free to play player, unless you're prepared to dump like 500 quid on the officer. It's just, in my eyes, it's just not worth it. So that's why I didn't invest anything in Steel Commodore, because I knew she was going to be outdated pretty much immediately, and lo and behold, this officer now exists and has completely outdated her. With damage resistance, okay, you can argue that she gets a critical strike rating of 30% for the unit damage, but that's really going to be only good if you're using like an armored destroyer, or you're using a frigate or a submarine, something with regular high attack, because the missiles just take too long. I'm using destroyers, and my armored destroyer is set up for defense, so it's not viable for me. And even if that was the case, she's still going to be irrelevant within 6 months, another 6 months anyway. You got 4 kids. What, did you forget you had the first 3, dude? Jesus. I got 1. That's enough. Right. See you in a bit, mate. So anyway, what I'm gonna do, guys, is I'm going to log out because I'm getting hot and I want to take my top off. And as much as you guys like me, I doubt you want to see me half naked on live stream. No one wants to do that. No one's willing to pay for that. So I've been the Smoking Cheddar, and you've been very patient. As always, a link to the Discord is in the description box down below. We are in the season of giving, and yes, I am going to plug it again like I always do. Cats Protection UK. If you are in the UK, please do consider donating to them instead of throwing them any money or anything my direction. I don't monetize these videos. I'm not about that life. If you don't want to do international, then please pick something closer to home, closer to heart. Just donate a £5 and just do it because you're a nice person, not because I said so. And on the last of that, I've just had a coffee and now I'm feeling very sleepy. So I'm going to go rage myself to sleep on Crusader Kings 3. Because that game's been kicking my ass all day, and I can't, it